Welcome to Ahead of the Game Sports Chat. We talk about all things Aussie sports. Josh did such a great job on last week's show that we brought him back to dive into the supercars. What was V8 supercars, now next gen supercars. Lost a little bit of its firepower, you could say, but it feels like this season, Josh, that things are starting to heat up again. There's a little bit more hype, some crazy rule changes that have changed the whole format of the sport and racing in general. Yeah, it feels like our supercars back.
Yeah, I think they are back. I like it. There's a lot of rule changes this year with the refueling, the manual refueling with the sprint races. We got the final series now at the end of the year, and we'll see how that plays out. We've got some driver changes. There's some big drivers going to different racing companies, so we'll see what happens. But yeah, it looks good.
Yeah. So on today's show, we're going to just have a little bit of a look back at how the season's played out in the first two rounds, and then dive into what we can expect from round three in New Zealand. But Josh, let's have a look at it. The championship extremely tight after the first two rounds, and it was really a tale of two stories because obviously Cam Waters dominated in that first round in Sydney. And then when it come to the big event around the Formula One in Melbourne, it was a different story. And the Camaros started to find their feet again and take back control of the championship to now with Will Brown actually leading the last year's world champion, last year's Australian champion, supercar champion, back in charge and back in the driver's seat. Haha, pun intended.
Well, if we're in America, we would call it a world champion. He'd be the world
Yeah,
champion anyway, because that's how they roll up.
that's right.
We can stay humble and call him the Australian touring car champion. But
Yeah,
yeah, I mean, the opening round was dominated by Waters. He won all three races. He got lucky in the second race. He didn't get lucky. He raced well around the last corner and got the side draft and won all three races. And then yeah, 1 week later it was a different, or 1 round later it was a different story in Melbourne, where the Red Bulls found their feet. They looked really dominant, and it looked like that the Ford was trying to find some balance on that circuit. So yeah, it was a tale of two rounds.
yeah. Like I just think there's been so much hype. Obviously, the way that Waters finished the season last year and then come out and won the first three races. I'm trying to even think last year if there was anyone that dominated around as much as Waters did. He took three poles and three race wins. So but I think the whole thing with this, there's been so much hype around Waters because of that start. But I think a lot of people miss that Sydney was actually a track for the forwards last year. The Red Bulls didn't perform well there last year, and they didn't perform well there this year. How? What do you feel the hype now around Waters after a pretty average round in Melbourne? To be honest.
Yeah, I mean, he couldn't find his feet at all in Melbourne. He was scrambling, and he admitted that he was scrambling the whole round. He was trying to find balance in the car. He was trying to find a one lap pace. I think the best he qualified was around sixth or something
Mm,
for all three or four of those races. So yeah, but I think he's the real deal. I think Waters, he can smell blood in the water this year, where he's been around a long time. He's always been a championship contender, and last year he thought it was going to be his year, and then this year he came out firing in Sydney, and everyone thinks
mm.
he's the real deal this year. I do too, but we'll just see how it plays out and see how the final series plays out. With the new format with the final series, you just got to be in that top 10. And if you got a rocket of a car, which he does most rounds, it's
Mm.
just going to come down to how you perform each week as opposed to how you've performed throughout the whole year. So yeah, we'll see.
Yeah. So if we move on to now have a little bit of a look at the championship and how things are shaping up, it's the tightest uh, margin between first and second since 2008 in the 300 point race kitty era. So they're only separated by 7 points between Waters and Brown, and obviously with Waters qualifying much better than Brown in the last race in Melbourne, surprisingly with the bad weather. He could have been in the lead. So it, I think we're heading in and to the next round with a championship that's obviously still wide open. Nobody really knows how this is going to play out. But like we said, you've already mentioned that Waters is going to be a championship contender in your opinion. But what about Brodie Kostecki? So, like, just quietly, not really quietly, he won Bathurst when he come back into the series last year and had some pretty decent results there to close out the year. And now he's showing that he can drive consistently in a new team. Do you feel that he's going to be a threat come the end of the season?
Well, you're stealing some of my material because he's my bold prediction
Mm,
to come out this year and put DJR back somewhere near the top, like they used to be with the old firm in
mm,
place there. I mean, yeah, he's been consistent. He's been sixth, 14th, fourth, seventh, and fifth, which
mm,
when you're up against these Chevys is been impressive. Bar
mm,
Cam Waters, he's been the best Ford out there. Will
mm.
Davison's a long way behind him, his teammate there at Shell Racing. So, yeah, I think
Yeah.
Kostecki in a new car in a big team, he hasn't even scratched the surface yet. He hasn't even got comfortable in this car yet. So
Mm.
once the season starts playing out and the rounds start rolling out, I think you'll see those numbers improve even more, and maybe he can be one that can stick it to these Red Bulls down the stretch.
Yeah, but do you see Waters still competing over these next few races? And I guess you got to force the issue with these Red Bulls because we're talking about Will Brown leading the championship, but you've also got Brock Feeney that was one round away from winning the world championship, the Supercar Championship, and he's also going to be in the mix. But it just feels like that in one way they've extended the amount of races, but it's becoming even more about consistency. And I think that's been the key to Will Brown's success. I think he won less races than what Feeney did last year, but still ended up winning the championship because he just makes sure he gets those results. And I think coming into it, like, can Waters prove that he can be that consistent like Kostecki? Kostecki knows how important it is in these tough times to get these points. So can Waters do the same?
Well, if we had a look at last year, if any time Waters was at the top of the timesheets, whether it was in getting pole position or winning races, the amount of times he said last year, the car's a rocket, the car's a rocket, the car's a rocket, and that still rings in my ear, and that car still is a rocket.
Mm,
Like you said, if a few things had gone a different way, if the last race in Melbourne wasn't washed out, he could be leading the championship going into this race, and we wouldn't even be having this conversation. We'd be saying it looks like his year. Can the Red Bulls stop him?
mm,
So I think he can be consistent in that car. Last round at Melbourne Park was a little bit baffling. I'm not convinced they've got it back on track until I see him tell me the car's a rocket again, hopefully in New Zealand.
mm,
But I think he is the real deal. The car's the real deal, and if he can be as consistent as someone like a Brown, which I believe he can, he can really be one to stick it to those Red Bulls.
Interesting. So I don't know. I'm not sure. I think Cam Waters needs to prove that he can be consistent over a whole season. It feels like he can be like go for those wins just a little bit too hard and then put himself in trouble or fail to qualify and then yeah, obviously on the back foot for the rest of the weekend because you can't qualify or you can't put that lap together. So I don't know. I'm not quite sure that he's going to be there, but I think yeah, the biggest threat for me, I think, is Kostecki because he knows what it takes to win. But let's have a quick break and then we will dive into our preview and predictions of Taupō. All right, let's dive straight in. No mucking around. Round three previews and predictions for the ITM Taupō Super 440. I am rubbish with rugby league players'
Taupo,
names, AFL
Taupo.
names, New Zealand names. I'm sorry. I apologize. It's my weakness. It's always going to be my weakness. Let's just say the New Zealand Super 440 for my sake. But Josh,
Don't
it
feel
was a
bad. I was watching a podcast the other day with and Kai Allen from Penrite Racing was on there, and he couldn't say it either, and the New Zealand boys had to tell him how to say it. So
uh,
even the racers don't even know how to get this name right.
thank God. Now, last year it was, I don't know, almost like it's funny to make the comparison. It was a little bit like the first two rounds of this year, but just the one race in New Zealand where it was dominated by the forwards and the Kiwi, and then race number two dominated once again by the Red Bulls. So real similarities we can cast straight away onto the this race in round three. But Josh, how do you see it's going to play out, and why was it such a difficult track for, I don't know, the drivers to handle last year or find any consistency over the two races?
Well, I think it's a technical circuit, and it was resurfaced last year. So the drivers are saying the resurfaced areas are super smooth, super front end on the car, and then you come across a different part of the track where it's the old surface, and it's super old and super coarse, and the tire deg is pretty rough around a few of those corners where the old surface is still there. It's got a lot of elevation, so from listening to what the drivers have to say about it, it is very technical. It's tough on the car. It's hard to chase the balance on the car because you've got half old surface, half new surface. So I think it's tricky, and you can't just set up your car one way or the other. So it comes down to a bit of driver skill. We'll see what happens this year with the softer compound, with the more durable softer compound tires.
Mm.
So will somebody look to whack them on early, manage the tire deg, and have a strategy that way? So yeah, I think it's tricky for the drivers. It's a technical circuit, and whoever gets it, whoever just gets that combination right can come out on top.
Yeah, I guess coming into this year, everybody's got the data that they collected from last season. So having that in mind and having a look at how the first couple of rounds have played out, who do you think's going to have a little bit of an advantage coming into that first race in New Zealand?
Oh, you got to back a Kiwi, I suppose. The home track with the Kiwis.
Mm,
I reckon if I have to make a prediction, I'll like Matty Payne. I like Matty
mm,
Payne. He knows a bit about this circuit. He's a Kiwi boy. They're going to be cheering for him. There's going to be plenty of fans there. So I like Matty Payne to come out and stick it to the Red Bulls and stick it to Cam Waters and be a smoky to maybe grab his first pole of the year.
So Payne gets pole. You think he then carries that in and goes from pole to the checkered flag for the first race? Big call.
It's difficult to say. Yeah, it's a big call. It's a big call. Well, if you put it this way, there's only been two people all year that have got a pole position, and that's Feeney's got four and Waters it's got two. So yeah, you're
Mm,
backing against the trends already. So I
mm.
think I think Matty Payne to go out there blast it. He's a good one lap specialist. I like Matty Payne for pole, and then maybe Cam Waters gets his gear together, and Cam Waters comes home and
Wow.
brings back the form in race one.
Okay, break all the hearts of all the Kiwi fans, but they got their win in the return last year. So now it's all about racing and championship. So heading out of this round, do you see that Cam Waters then has the ascendancy in the championship heading into round four?
Yeah, look, you can't go past the Red Bulls. The Red Bulls. It's a championship winning combo, championship winning team. They got all the gear. They got Wink up there running the ship. I know they got to New Zealand super early, straight after Albert Park. They had they had Feeney wanting to start the race in the wet in pole, and they had Will Brown I think down in 18th, and
Mm.
Whincup even said he was happy to take the loss, take the washout, and get the cars in one piece down out there to New Zealand. So they'll be ready. So they will be hard. They will be hard to beat. if they get a couple of good results, they should probably still carry the championship into the next round. But if Cam Waters can snatch a result there, then he'll be the championship leader running into the next round. So we'll wait. We'll wait and
So
see.
you're
It's going to be
basically
very
saying
interesting.
it's up in the air. It can go anyway. This
It's anyone's
race.
game.
In
It's
reality,
it's
anyone's
motorsport.
yeah,
Kai Allen will probably win in the
yeah,
Penrite car, and
yeah,
Matty Payne won't do anything. So who knows?
yeah. All right, perfect. All right, well, that wraps it up. Thanks for joining us on our Supercars special of Ahead of the Game. And who knows, if this one goes well, we might just keep you posted each and every round for the Supercars in 2025. Now, just remember, hang with us and stay ahead of the game.